Welcome everyone. I'm Philip Deneen, President of the Board of Education. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, welcome to our first Board of Ed meeting for the year of 22. And I hope everyone had a happy holiday season, and is well rested, and looking forward to starting the school year off. With that said, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. O'Hara, and he's going to do a presentation on our secondary curriculum updates. Dr. O'Hara?
Good evening, everyone. I'm happy to be here with you this evening. I'm very excited to share some of this information because I believe it's really the beginning of something exciting for students in Islip Middle School, Islip Middle School and Islip High School. Just want to share with you quickly an itinerary. We're going to start by showing you the core courses that are offered in our middle school and high school in English first, then social studies. We want to take some time to show you when and where some changes will phase in, or some recommendations will phase in over a 3-year period and a 2-year period respectively. We want to explain the rationale behind some of these recommendations and how we believe our students are ready for them. And then we want to take as much time as is necessary at the end of the evening to answer your questions. So first we'll start with secondary English. If you look in the top left of this little diagram here, you'll see that that represents the 2021-2022 school year. That's what the 21-22 is on the left. You can see that currently 7th graders in Islip Middle School select between a Regents level course and an honors level course. You can see that carries forward into 8th grade where the same selection is available. And then you see when the students move into grade 9, you'll notice the English 9H courses there. You'll notice the English 9 Regents courses there. And you'll notice a course that's listed as English 9 Support. That's the AIS services that students were receiving while they were in the middle school. It just presently is scheduled differently in the high school. So in the high school, it's attached to a class, similar to the way a science lab is attached to a class on a secondary level. Whereas in the middle school, it's not necessarily attached to a class, and they get their AIS or academic intervention services throughout their day, as opposed to being attached to a specific class. And you see that that format carries through to grade 10. And you see that when the students move to grade 11, they now have the opportunity to take an AP course. So there's essentially in 11th grade in Islip High School 4 different levels of courses students can take, with AP being the most rigorous, and the English 11 support, or the course that offers academic intervention services, being the students that may need the most support. The gold box for 12th grade represents the current course offering in Islip High School in the English language curriculum. And you'll notice there are 3 courses are listed. However, it's only 2 levels that students are able to choose from in 12th grade. So one level is CAC English 12. That's freshman college English, so that's a college course. And the other 2 courses are Advanced Placement English Literature or Advanced Placement English Language. And Advanced Placement is college level work, but it's different than a college course that takes place in high school. Okay, so beginning in September, here are some proposed changes. First, what I'd like to point out to you is that this course in 12th grade, you can see it's already 2 levels in grade 12, and you can see that that remains. So that would just move into the next school year. Next thing I'd like to draw your attention to is to point out that if you're in the audience and you're wondering, how does this impact my child, or what will it feel like for my child, you have to kind of follow along diagonally. So if you have a student who's currently in 7th grade, when that student moves to the 2022-2023 school year, they move down a year, but they'll move across one column because they'll be 8th graders. So I think if you follow on a diagonal, it's easier. So same would hold true if you're in 8th grade, just follow diagonal. And that's a good starting point for the next part. Because if you take current 8th graders and you follow diagonally, you'll see that, that yellow box, and that's where I want to just spend a little time right here. So you'll notice there that there's English 9 Regents and there's English 9 Honors, and that part is not any different than what's available to them in grade 8, with the exception of it now says pre-AP, or pre-advanced placement. And I want to show you, if you look one box to the right, you'll see that the pre-AP English 10, pre-AP English 10 Regents, pre-AP English 10 Honors, whether it's the support, the AIS class, the Regents class, or the Honors class, our current 10th graders are experiencing a pre-AP curriculum in grade 10. So what we're doing there is just simply taking what we believe is a superior curriculum and things that will enhance opportunities for our students, and offering now in grade 9 and in grade 10, beginning with the September 2022 school year. And then you'll notice the other change over here for grade 11 is instead of 4 levels that are in place in this current school year, in September 2022 for 11th graders, there will be 3 levels. And in that box, students have to choose typically between a Regents course or an advanced placement course. So for September 2022, just to do a quick little recap for you on those particular boxes there, grades 7, 8, 10, and 12 remain the same. The grade 12 options for next year are the same as this year. It's either college freshman English, or the AP language, or the AP literature course. In grade 11, there's now two levels from which to choose. It's a Regents level or it's an AP level. What I'd like to point out to you is that the English 11 SUP, although it's listed separate, it's a Regents course. So although there's 3 courses listed there, there's really only 2 levels from which the students choose. And then in grade 9, English support group is scheduled differently, more like the AIS is scheduled in the middle school. So if you look at the 9th grade column, you'll notice that there's 3 courses listed in the purple box for 21-22. You'll notice that there's only 2 courses listed in the 22-23 school year. What I'd like to emphasize to you folks here is that the students will still be receiving that AIS support. It's just that the way it'll be scheduled will be more similar to the way it's scheduled in the middle school currently for them. So for those students entering grade 9 from grade 8, the AIS will feel more normal to them than it has felt for their predecessors going from grade 8 to grade 9. Okay, if you move forward one more year, just want to point out to you that the 12th grade curriculum stays the same. Draw your attention to 11th grade, you'll notice that that change that was recommended now moves down to 23-24 school year. And then I want to draw your attention to these 2 boxes. So beginning in the 7th grade, that's the first time we'll be recommending that 7th grade students are scheduled in what we call heterogeneous classes in grade 7. And then you'll notice in 10th grade that the English support course doesn't show up anymore. And that's the same explanation I gave just a moment ago. Those students will still be getting the support class, but if you follow backwards diagonally, you'll see that in grade 9, their support class was scheduled the same way that it was in grade 8. So as those students move from grade 8 through grade 11, they'll still get the academic intervention services, or they'll still get the support that they need, and it'll feel similar to them to the way that it did in middle school. And a quick little recap of 23 school year recommendations. Heterogeneous classes in grade 7. We're recognizing that our elementary students are becoming stronger readers and writers as a result of our redesigned reading writing workshop model. And it's been in practice for 4 years. So we anticipate in another 2 years that we're going to have 7th graders entering the middle school that are stronger readers and writers than we've had in the past. And grade 10 AAS will be scheduled just like it was grade 9, which again follows kind of the middle school model of scheduling academic intervention services. Okay, so this would be the 2024-2025 school year in English language arts for middle school and high school. Just to point out here that the heterogeneous scheduling, once those 7th graders have experienced that schedule will now move with them into grade 8. And then we're just a couple of years away from reaching a point where every student in our middle school and high school will have a curriculum that's pretty rigorous, well suited for them, and will prepare them for whatever their post-secondary life may be, whether it's a career, a trade, military, or college. Okay. I'm going to ask Mrs. Wagner to come up and kind of speak to us a little bit about what the pre-AP curriculum is for you folks, and also talk a little bit about the rationale about why we're ready to make these recommendations. If you don't mind joining me.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming out on this chilly night. I'm delighted to be here to speak with you. So as Dr. O'Hara said, I think we'll start by explaining for you what the pre-AP curriculum is. So despite its name, it's not actually an AP class. Think of it as a preparation class to take an AP class. It's basically a framework of skills that are integrated into our existing curriculum. So it just gets implemented into the existing 9th grade and 10th grade curriculum. And the skills that we're talking about are analytical writing, close reading, understanding writer's choices. All of these things are skills that students need if they are going to be able to be successful students in an AP class or even just in college in general. Now, every quarter, there are, sorry, I'm having a little difficulty with this, I'll pass back. So every quarter there are performance tasks and there are checkpoints that students take. And these assessments help students monitor their own progress as progressive AP students. So that's basically what that pre-AP curriculum is. So the rationale for doing all this is that, look, as educators, we want our students to achieve the most that they can achieve. We want students, when they leave our doors, to just pursue their hopes and their dreams with gusto. We don't want any student to be held back because they don't have strong enough literacy skills. So let's just take a look at the ending point of what we want in English. So at the end, as Dr. O'Hara pointed out, students are taking either a dual credit college class or an AP class. That's pretty robust curriculum. And students this year are doing pretty well. That's what I've heard from students and what I've heard from teachers. The problem I have with it is that the trajectory is not right. So I'm gonna be a little old school here, okay? So here is the end game. And this is what the trajectory looks like. It's very wavy, it's not straight, and for some kids it's very tough to access. So I want the end goal to be like this, and I want the trajectory to be like this, where it's just a straight upward incline to where we want them to go. So how do we do that? Well, one of the changes is the pre-AP curriculum. Because think about it, 9th and 10th grade, we are giving them pre-AP curriculum. We are getting them ready to take an AP class. So at the end of 10th grade, when students are poised to choose and to say, oh, should I take an AP class or not, we prepared them, we've supported them. So the only choice at that point really should be for students to say, do I want to go on-level work, which would be Regents, or do I want to do above-level work, and I'm going to do an AP class. Now, 11th grade is the first time that an AP class is offered in English. We can't offer it any earlier, just is no other class. I'm sure that you may say, well, what if my student doesn't want to take an English AP class? Okay, first I won't hear that, but I'm just kidding. There may be other AP classes that they want to take. But the skills that students learn in the pre-AP transfer to other classes. So even if your student says, you know, I think in 11th grade, I'm going to do an AP Science and an AP Math, and I'll just take Regents English. That's fine, because all of the skills that we taught in pre-AP English can be applied to those classes. Because even in math, you know there's a lot of reading for the math problems. So that would work very well. Now, in middle school, it's a little bit different. We are not proposing any changes until the following year. So we have a year and a half before any changes would be made at the middle school. And our reasoning there is that we really are still working on enhancing that curriculum. And as Dr. O'Hara said, because of the changes that we've made in the elementary buildings, our students are coming up as stronger readers and writers. In 5th grade alone, students there are already writing 5-paragraph essays. They're 10 and 11. Like, that's amazing that they are doing that much. So when they come up to us in 7th and 8th grade, we need a richer, more robust curriculum that is going to engage them. And we're hoping that by providing that, we will be able to engage them in learning together, in which they can all really learn from each other. So it's really for all of these reasons, at the middle school and at the high school, that we propose these changes. Because we feel like by doing so, that this is how students are going to live their best educational life. And as educators and as parents, that's it. That's really all that counts.
Okay, so I'd like to kind of take you through the same process for social studies. This is what's currently in place, 2021-2022 school year for social studies. You can see in grade 7, the students are grouped heterogeneously. And then in grade 8, they have 2 levels from which to choose, same in grade 9. When they move into grade 10, you can see that there's 3 levels, a Regents level, an honors level, and an AP level. And you could see that that carries through to grade 11. A Regents level, an honors level, and an AP level. And you can see 3 levels from which to choose in grade 12. Economics or civics, a freshman college class in economics or civics, or an AP government and politics course. So here's some proposals for beginning 2020-2023. Again, just a reminder, follow diagonally if you're wondering how this would look or feel for your child. Okay, you'll notice that the U.S. history curriculum in grade 8 will be heterogeneous grouping. Those students won't really know any difference because that's already what they're experiencing this year when they move from 7th to 8th. And then you'll notice that there's 2 levels from which to choose in grade 10 and 2 levels from which to choose in grade 11. Regents level or an advanced placement level. Quick just summary of this. Grade 8, heterogeneous grouping continues into grade 8. No change for students. Grade 10, 2 levels from which to choose, and grade 11, 2 levels from which to choose. And when you continue to follow that trajectory, here's where you'll notice a change. AP European History is the only 9th grade AP course that's available to students. So in that grade, 2 years from now, students would have 2 levels from which to choose. You'll notice that there's global history, 10 regions, and AP World History would replace the European history that was 1 row above. And then at the end of that course, at the end of 12th grade, 2023-24, students can choose college economics and civics, AP government politics, or AP microeconomics. So it's 3 course offerings potentially, but it's 2 levels. Okay, that's a summary of that. 2 levels in grade 9, AP World History replaces European history, and 2 levels from which to choose in grade 12. I see you reading, I didn't want to click until you were done.
Sorry, I didn't.
Okay, fine, if you need it.
I'm not even translating.
Okay. And then you can see where you end up in 2024, 2025. So I'm going to ask Dr. Dryzelski to come up and explain some of these changes in rationalities.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Dryzelski. I'm the Social Studies Coordinator for the district. And I'll just briefly explain the rationale for this. I want to start with a quick story. When I was in high school, way back when, I was in no AP course, mainly because there was a roadblock in the way. I couldn't take any AP courses. I wasn't allowed, according to the school. And when I went to college, I never really thought of doing anything in history because I never really thought I was good enough because that's what they told me in high school. And now today I have a doctorate and I'm the social studies coordinator. So I want to give every one of our students the opportunity to feel like they can succeed here at Islip, and they should succeed, and they will succeed based on what we have up here. And we'll start with the 8th grade, and what our plan over there will be is to take the honors curriculum and meld it in with our Regents curriculum, melding it also with our AP skills, because what New York State has started to do with our Regents test is make them AP tests. So by making all of those skills and putting them all into 8th grade, gives every student the opportunity to then move on to 9th grade, where they have a choice to say, I don't think I'm really ready for an AP yet, or I think I am ready for the challenge of an AP. Now, we would be one of the only districts that would offer an AP in 9th grade, which is actually a benefit, because it would be the only AP a student could take here in Islip and really focus on getting those skills necessary, not only for social studies, but for any other AP they would want to take in their career in any subject. From there, they would then move on and they would decide, well, I took a pre-AP in 9th, and I really still don't feel ready, so I'll just stay in my Regents curriculum and take the Regents at the end of the year, and that Regents test is based on AP type questions. Or I do feel confident, and I'm going to move on to my AP World History course. Now, all of these courses will also be open enrollment, meaning that it doesn't matter what your grade is. So if I took the pre-AP and I got a 70 in my pre-AP class, but I felt like, listen, I want to take on the challenge of an AP course in 10th grade, you'd be able to do that. The same would go for every grade level. And if we go backwards by design, just like it with English, by a senior year, I want every student in social studies to feel confident enough to either take a college class or an AP class and be able to graduate and go to college with those credits already in hand. Thank you.
Okay. So we'll open up the questions. Does anybody on the board have questions first?
Did you want me to use the microphone or just speak?
Probably for people at home, might help if you use the
Okay.
mic.
So one of my questions, Dr. O'Hara, can you just explain how the district will now have to realign our resources, whether that's staff, professional development, curriculum materials, in order to meet the goals and objectives of the curriculum changes?
Yeah, I can answer 2 parts of that, and I'll ask either Barbara or Rob to jump in for the curriculum part. But We don't expect any staffing needs because we have, 250 or 220 students per grade, and we'll still have the same number of students, so we need to provide instruction to them. So, which students or which classes may look different, but if we have 10 social studies teachers, we'll still have 10 social studies teachers. This won't cause an inordinate increase in class size. It won't cause a reduction in staff. We're working toward embarking on a pretty rigorous professional development program in the district for our 7 through 12 teachers, hopefully beginning this summer. And it'll take a year or two, probably 2 years to get through that. So that work is certainly connected to this work. And in terms of curriculum writing, or if that was part of your question, I think I'll defer to one of my colleagues here and ask them if they want to take that one on.
Yeah, so to start with the AP classes, anytime a teacher takes over an AP class, the College Board offers PD during the summer that we send our teachers to. So, and that's including the pre-AP. So any of those courses that you see that said pre-AP or AP course, any teacher teaching that would be going for PD over the summer. That is trained by the College Board professors. In terms of the 8th grade, the plan is if this were to go ahead to start as soon as possible, so I'm hoping February, to really start working with the teachers once a month, if not twice a month, with our 8th grade teachers to work on making the curriculum changes for next year, and then continuing that over this summer. Do you have anything else, Ms. Wagner? And
What
the same
about-
thing would go for English with AP courses as well.
What about the alignment of our curriculum to any textbooks that we currently have?
So if it's an AP course, the AP course does require you to have a textbook. And then they give you a list. The teacher goes through the list of textbooks we're able to use, and then we choose one from there. Most of them today are digital.
So for English, we don't use textbooks generally. So when we have a pre-AP class, we get that material that comes in that unit that we get, and it comes with some exams, so that means we don't actually have to prepare them. And so it's really, and we would be able to use some of the material that we already have.
Okay, thank you.
Hello. What changes, if any, at the elementary level will have to take place for our students as they are going to be taking these new updated classes?
Yeah, I think my short answer would be those changes are already underway, and that's what I alluded to when I said they're becoming stronger readers or writers, and that was the example that Ms. Wagner gave when she said about the quality and the depth of the essays experience for writing. So, to Islip's credit, for a number of years now, he's already been working on that curriculum, so we think we're pretty confident that these courses need to be in place so that when the students that have those stronger skills get to our middle school, they'll have a place to go. It's kind of a road to nowhere. It'll be kind of like working at work and working, and then getting to this level where it's less rigorous than what you've experienced already.
Thank you.
I just have one more question, Dr. O'Hara. Can you just explain, maybe going back to the social studies slide, the difference in the, I'm sorry, what's the criteria that will be utilized in order to determine whether or not an 8th grader will transition to pre-AP Global or AP Euro? So what criteria is going to be utilized for that? And then if a student decides to take a pre-AP Global History class, does that preclude them from taking AP World History in 10th grade?
So the second question, the answer is no.
Okay.
All right, so it would enhance their ability to take the AP World History course because it's a pre-AP curriculum, so they would have the skill set to be ready to take it's open enrollment. So, there's not necessarily prerequisites as far as grades go. And, they'll be worked on over next year on the, as Dr. Grzowski said, the curriculum for history. Of course, there's careful advisement that has to happen, right? So if I'm a student that has a 70 in my 8th grade history class, yes, I could take the AP course. We're not going to hold it back. We're not going to put gates for students. We're trying to open up roadways for students. However, the expectation would be that in the counseling department, the advisement is appropriate, and if it's student A who has 70s and is working at capacity and doing everything he or she should, studying extra help, asking questions in class, rewriting notes, doing all the things that good students do, and that student's maxing out at a 70, then the advisement that family would get is that he or she's probably not ready yet for the AP course moving into 9th grade. If it's a student that's working in the mid-80s and is doing zero homework and not putting in any effort and just kind of cruising, and the summer between grade 8 and grade 9, we take that student on a college trip, and he or she realizes, well, I'm in love with this school and I want to go there, and I learned from that college that my chances are better if I take a challenging curriculum. I'm ready to do the work now. We're not going to let that 80 hold the child back from putting in the work and taking the advanced placement course.
Thank you.
Well,
Hi, how are you? Kristen Presley. Just a quick question. In regards to the English, I know that you said currently the AIS is attached to their English program, correct? You were calling it,
Yeah, let's see if I
you were
get back
labeling
to
it
it.
support, but it's essentially AIS
let me
services.
just get back to it. So,
Okay.
Go ahead.
Now, if you're going to, which, is this already like set in stone, you guys, this is what's happening? Like this or you're proposing it, or it's already?
Well, tonight's our proposal, and then if we get the green light, we're going to start working on it.
Got it, okay. So my question is regarding the support program, the AIS students, if you're removing that from attaching it to their English, are they going to be missing out on an elective elsewhere? Where are they going to be making up that AIS period?
No, because it's already an every other day spot in their schedule. So, let me give you an example. And when you were in high school, you took a science class. So 5 days a week, period 5, you had your biology class.
Right.
And every other day you had a lab attached to that class.
Mm-hmm.
So the way it's currently scheduled is very similar to that. All right, so students will have English period 5, and those students every other day have period 6 English. On the alternate days, period 6, they might be in phys ed, or it could be in another elective or some alternating day course. So those alternating day courses will exist still around the building, and that AIS will still exist. So we're swapping a period for a period. The difference is the students that are in that English 9 support class right now, it's kind of like students walked into a high school and you said, who are our top performers? We take them out, we're going to put them here. And then you said, who's our next level of performers? We're going to take them out and we're going to put them here. And who's left? We're going to take these children and we're going to keep them together in this class where they get some extra support. What we know is better for students is to take those students that were left out twice, put them in classes with their peers so they have academic role models and they can engage in deeper conversation. And they're still going to get that AIS. It just won't be attached to that one class. So if I need AIS and you need AIS, we were in a class together. I'm still going to get my AIS, you're still going to get your AIS, but you might be in 3rd period English and I might be in 5th period English. And the guidance counselors somewhere throughout the day will find the period of AIS that fits in my schedule and the one that fits in your schedule.
Okay. Okay. It's hard to verbalize my question, my next question. Thank you for answering that one.
You're welcome.
While you're hoping to raise the bar, like the bottom bar, as you said, you have your high performers, your mid-level performers, and perhaps your low performers. So the hope here seems to be to raise the lower performers, correct?
Well, let me push back on one thing, and I don't want to sound sarcastic, but I just want to make the point that hope is not a strategy. So we're not dealing in hope, and I'm not being sarcastic, I just really want to make the point.
It wasn't my focus, but okay.
Yeah, this is well thought out.
Okay.
And,
So the strategy is to raise the lower
well,
performers?
the expectation is that we will, yes.
Okay,
And listen, every school district has children going through it that
Oh, of
are
course.
cruising, right?
mhm,
Nothing's going to happen to them. So there's not going to be any courses that are going to be watered down. There's not going to be a weakened curriculum. We're going to raise the level that students can perform at from early on and get them ready step by step.
well, that's actually, well, you kind of saw where I was going to head. In the removal of your honors program in the middle school level, you don't feel like that's kind of what you're doing?
No.
I just always, I'm of the mindset that more electives offer more opportunity, more individualized instruction, more differentiated instruction, and it looks like you're essentially eliminating some electives, and, I mean, you're calling it pre-AP, which is great, but I mean, if you're calling every single class pre-AP, then that's not really changing anything.
No, actually it is. We're not calling it, we're not just giving it a label, we're actually infusing a advanced placement curriculum. So
Okay.
It's not just a name change, it's a change in substance as well.
All right, okay, thanks.
No. What is going on over there?
Just one more question. Can you just explain the differences between the pre-AP English 10R and 10H curriculum and assessment-wise?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Ms. Wagner?
So just so you know, we are already running the pre-AP 10, that's going on already in the high school. The reason we had decided to go with that first before the pre-AP 9 is just because of, you know, what's happening with the pandemic. We felt that students were behind, and we just wanted to make sure we were getting them ready for 11th grade. So pre-AP 9 and pre-AP 10 are two distinctly different frameworks, but they are focusing on similar skills. It's just that the depth at which you are doing it is going to be different from one class to the next. Also, the material that you use is going to be different. So, for instance, in 9th grade, we're talking more about students identifying, telling details that are helping the narrator tell the story. In 10th grade, we're working more on building an argument, and in the past, for instance, the essays they were writing were just a little bit more straightforward and easier, and frankly, just easier. So that the pre-AP tests are more about what strategies did the writer use to make his point. So that means that the student is doing two things. They're not just writing their argument, but they're looking at what the author has done. So we're hoping that that is elevating their reading of the text, but also informing their writing, so that when they're actually sitting down to write an essay, we are hoping they're going to say, hey, what did that author do? And why don't I use that strategy in my own writing? So it's a double dose. We don't do that normally in a regular class right now. That is just a more in-depth study of how to read and write. It's really, you know, both together, right? Reading is breathing in, writing is breathing out. And that's what we're really doing in that pre-AP class.
Thank you.
Others?
I think I feel similar to, I'm all about raising the bar, but I feel like it takes out that middle guy. So yes, there's kids that should be challenged and are here, but then there's kids that can't do those AP courses. And as much as we say we want them to, and I have 4 kids in the district and they're all different levels, those honors classes have been key for one of my kids, you know, like without having to take the AP courses. And also I've had 3
So, let me just think about what you said. I want to make sure that I respond to the right things. So one concern is you think that there's some students that honors the just right placement.
Yes.
Okay. I would be misleading you if I said that there's probably some students out there that are like that. What I can tell you from direct experience, personal experience, to previous school districts, is that this work, this proposal, the overwhelming majority of the students that would have selected honors select the AP, and at the end of their course of study, they're in a much better place. We know that students do better in post-secondary education if they've taken just one advanced placement class, even if they scored a 1 on the exam. So what I can say to you is there's not one plan that would be perfect for every single student. So I have to be honest, I can't say that what you're describing would not apply to anybody. I can't, right? The other piece about what you said your child experienced in the honors, your fourth grader will experience that.
There will be an honors in 7th and 8th grade.
No, it won't be called honors anymore, but the level of work will be the same that the honor students are experiencing now. We're taking a couple of years to get the students coming up to get there. So we won't be watering things down. We'll be getting more children ready for it.
Struggling, that won't be.
Right, how's that helping them?
There's going to be
Yeah, but
no.
that's where the teacher has to differentiate his or her instruction and differentiate for students. And so it's not, some of our best teachers are in the elementary level because they teach all kinds of students in one class. Secondary teachers are going to step up and rise to that occasion too.
But isn't that only just setting up a larger roadblock for the students as well as your staff? If what you're saying is, then they'll just have to differentiate better.
What's the roadblock?
Well, either on the teacher's end or the student's end. You're saying that within a class of 25, instead of 25 being kind of in the same performance level, now you're going to take 25 and put them in this type of gap. And aren't you just creating more of a challenge for the kids that are down here and less of a challenge for the students who are up here? And a greater challenge for any staff who's in that
The only
room?
answer I could give you is that's, for children, that's not our experience. For faculty, yeah, sure. Teaching different courses and teaching more students that might have opted out of a course is a little bit of a challenge. There's no question about that, but they're good teachers that are capable is your worry that teachers are going to be challenged, or is
No,
your worry-
no, my worry is that
separate.
students are going to suffer.
Yeah, so, say that again, then who's going to suffer?
Students,
Yeah. I can say to all of you who have that concern that I think that concern is legitimate. At the same time, what I can say to you is that my direct experience tells me that it just doesn't turn out that way, that it really works, and the kids rise to the occasion.
But
And
I'm sorry, what about, to almost echo what you were saying, is that you might have an 8th grader, your hypothetical was, you might have an 8th grader who is performing at a certain level, and then, in the 70s, I think you had said, and then went to go to a college tour and realized, oh, I do want to do this, and then they've turned it around. But that's calling on a particular type of student and a particular level of maturity that is apart from academic ability. I don't know that this trajectory recognizes maturity of all of these students. I mean.
Why are we pushing it so fast?
well, actually, it's
Why are we pushing it so fast?
what happens now in places that have the different tracks is that when students are glorified 10-year-olds or 11-year-olds, somebody's making a decision about who's capable and who's not. And that's where maturity comes in, because if you keep more of them in more rigorous courses and better work for longer, then they have better opportunity to blossom. And that's been my experience running 2 high schools high school and school district. We've seen great success with it.
Okay. I mean, I hope that you're right. And I know that you're also speaking to seeing an increase in academic ability, reading, writing, is what you were saying, correct? That you've already seen gains, it sounds like. That's historically what's driven this decision. But on the other hand, from everywhere else in the world, you keep hearing about how COVID has put kids back performance level-wise.
Yeah, I'm sorry, she had mentioned that the last 2 years have been a struggle. So what criteria are we going on to go with this projected model? Like, what's the testing criteria? Haven't they canceled regencies in the past? So what are you holding the bar to suggest moving forward with a model like this? And let's be honest, not every kid's going on to college. Not
Yeah,
every kid is college material. So it seems like there's gonna be, I guess to reiterate between what everybody's saying is,
Yeah.
you had the school track, you had the regents, you had the honors. At least that's how it was when I went to school.
Mhm.
They've evolved it, and obviously you want to achieve higher education. I am all for that. But it seems like you're going to have quite a big gap for the kids in the middle, because there's kids that are going to be at the bottom, and then you have the elite. What are we going to do about the middle of the road kids?
So, well, here's one point that I can say to you is, first of all, to be crystal clear with everybody who's listening, everybody who's here, our goal is not only college, right? Our goal is to have every student who leaves this high school have the best plan for him or her, the best match, right? So, for one of my sons, it was a junior college. Another one of my sons was military. Another one, it was, college in Arkansas, and another one was college in Oklahoma, right? So, it's the best match for that student, not only college. I want to make sure everybody is clear on that. In regard to not everybody going to college, I don't have a crystal ball and I can't speak to every individual case, but if you're a type of student that is interested in a trade, and if you're a type of student that's interested in an apprenticeship or the military, things like that after school, then you might not have to select the AP class. And the Regents class will meet your needs, and you'll be able to accomplish those goals in that program. Yes, ma'am.
So I'm an educator as well, but at what point with the climate that we are in, is this better for the emotional and mental well-being of our students to push them further with the climate that we're in? Why does this need to be done now?
Well,
You have kids that are stressed out.
yeah.
In my district, we had a child kill themselves. So that's not where I want my daughter to be.
Yeah.
So
I don't,
why is this now?
I don't believe that choosing an AP course in this particular content area or that particular content area is going to be the source of stress for students.
It is.
So,
You don't have children in school right now, but it is.
Everything's-
It is a very big stress.
Everything's stressful.
Everything is stressful now. Going to school is stressful. Wearing a mask every day is stressful. And now you're gonna add this.
I just want to run out a stat for you because I did some look at our honor students right now. And I want to get it accurate. So, through the first quarter this year of our honor students, our 8H students, 92% of them had an 85 or higher already.
That's honor students.
In 9H, 87% had an 85 or higher. In 10H, 68% had an 85 or higher. And in 11H, 89% had a 90 or higher. So they are capable of doing the work in a pandemic.
But are you checking to see what the teachers are actually assigning them in the work that they're being asked to do? Because I'll tell you, it's changed tremendously in the last couple of years, and many of them are doing very well. There's very little expected of them.
So in our 9H and our 10H, that is our AP Euro teacher, and she teaches that course like an AP course.
So she's wonderful, I know.
Phenomenal teacher.
She's a great teacher.
And so yes,
But you have a couple others that are asking very, very minimal, if anything. No papers, no exams, nothing in the class. The kids are getting 100 in the class and they're breezing by. So
but those aren't these H courses,
no, they're not.
right? So that's why I'm saying, when we can move those honor students to our AP courses, and I think they can achieve AP material and AP type of scores.
Based on
And
what
and they're
criteria?
showing it, based on these statistics, based on the teacher you just said, who's very good at her job. And that teacher would still be doing those courses.
But how many children in a class of 220 or 250 are enrolled in those H classes versus the
So
rest of the class?
approximately in our 9H, we have 50, in our 10H, we have 50, and in our 11H, we have 50.
Out of 220.
Plus, that's not including our AP courses. So then our AP course in,
I think that might be an important distinction, because,
Well, I guess the biggest concern here is like, what about the other half of the kids that aren't performing at that H, the
Well-
pre-AP and the AP level?
so, but the thing is, we're not saying that if you're a Regents level student, you have to take AP classes. So he just gave you statistics about some honors courses, right?
Correct.
So with these proposals, those students who are getting 90s and high 80s, in a year or two, depending on what grade they're in now or what course it is, they'll have to make a decision. I want to take my 90 and my 88 and I want to go into an AP class, or I don't. The students that have been in Regents classes, they don't have to choose the AP course. If it's working for them where they are, then it continues to work for them. So it's not wiping out those courses for those students.
I didn't say wiping out, it just seems to,
Oh, I didn't think you said it, but I just want to I didn't think you said that at all. I just want to be clear that, you asked how many students is it, so you gave them a number. And that's the spot where those students will have to make a decision. It's not the students that have been moving along and been very satisfied and fulfilled in their Regents level curriculum. It's students that are kind of the in-between, and we think in a class of 200-something 10th graders, we believe more than 15 are capable
50.
to do an AP course.
You said 50 out of about 250, is that?
When he said 50 in the honors, the AP class has roughly 15 students.
Like 1-5 or 5-0?
1-5.
So my first question is, I'm kind of focused on the English situation at the high school. Is there a requirement for kids to take English in 12th grade?
Yes.
So the only two options are a capstone or an AP class.
It's a college English. It's not capstone. That's not the capstone class, correct, Barbara?
No, okay.
That's a dual credit course. Let me be clear, this might help too. There could be 15 of us right here that could be in that college level course. We could choose to pay the university, it's a nominal fee, and we could earn three or six, three college credits.
Right.
And I could choose to pay for the course and earn the credits, and you may not, but we earn the course together.
That's also to only like a select, you have to have the relationship with that university though, correct?
Yes.
That's like with, you form a relationship with just Suffolk community or just Stony Brook, correct?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of colleges. Syracuse does it, St. John's does it,
Okay.
Columbian does it, Suffolk Community College, yeah.
Right, but I'm just saying like you might be in that course and you might pay for those 3 credits, but it doesn't necessarily transfer to everywhere necessarily.
No, they don't. It depends on your grade and it depends on what kind of level. So, for example, if it just depends. If you're applying to an Ivy League college, that credit might not transfer to
Right.
libraries, but if it's a credit through SUNY Farmingdale, it'll transfer to any SUNY that you go to.
Yeah.
So my concerns are related to what Ms. O'Leary had brought up about the social emotional health, because I think in dealing with my own children right now, as well as, seeing what other families are going through, there are a lot of children in this district and everywhere through the pandemic who are cognitively, academically able to take AP courses, but emotionally, they're not
Yes, presently, that's the policy.
Because having spent my high school career, maybe it was a few years ago, but going through an honors program and some AP classes, at the time, we weren't even allowed to take AP classes till our senior year, and we weren't required to take the exam. That puts a whole additional pressure on the child. So, you know, I don't even like the fact that they're required to take the exam, because I think they can still achieve and earn that level of education and challenge themselves to a degree without that added pressure. And I think that's what's going on with a lot of the kids right now, is that there's just this pressure and this, you know, with the whole pandemic going on, that there are a lot of kids who would like an option somewhere in between regions, because I think you're pigeonholing these kids now, where they don't wish to take the AP exams or to take the AP courses, but now they're pigeonholed into the regions because there's no other option by which to achieve a little bit more. So while you're
Yeah.
opening doors for some people, I think you're also,
I would be dishonest with you
Others.
if I said that that wasn't a legitimate concern, and I just will, at the risk of being repetitive, I'll say that I was a principal in high school for 13 years. I've seen what this does for students. The only variable, being totally transparent and honest with you, is the pandemic. I can't, you know, I can't go back in time and put a pandemic in that high school and see what would have happened. You know, but if you think about this, if you look at this carefully, it doesn't happen all at once. Of all the courses, if I have my mind correct, of all the courses, for example, that they take every day in our high school, the current 10th graders will have to make a decision in one area. You know, that'll be a change, right? Science will be unchanged, math will be unchanged, electives will be unchanged. So it doesn't take it from 0 and ratchet it up to 100 miles an hour overnight. So it's not changing everything. It's a progression, and it transitions over time. And again, I don't want to be redundant, because I know you people understand where I'm coming from. It's just that it's hard for me to emphasize how successful I've seen this be for students. Right? I've seen the difference that it makes. Firsthand, 13 years as a principal, working really closely with students, and 5 years in a middle school district before here, where in that case, we took the AP English class and moved it to grade 10. And the students that were formerly honor students took the AP English class in grade 10. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that here. It was a different circumstance. In that high school, they had international baccalaureate and advanced placement. And so what would happen to a student in that school is in grade 10, they would take an advanced placement course. In grade 11 and grade 12, they take the international baccalaureate English courses. And in grade 12, they take the other AP exam, even though they weren't in the course, because the curriculum are aligned. And at the end of the day, those kind of students had so many opportunities, and they're such strong applicants that it made a difference for them. Sure.
Grades, we have not had honors in English for at least 7 or 8 years. Just hasn't been available. And what we put in there is we put in an AP class, AP language, which we typically run in 11th grade. But we run it now also in 12th grade, because we feel that that class, when there's freshman composition, would all college students must take. So we've run that very successfully. And we've had students
Yeah, I think that question's important enough for everybody to hear the answer, so if you don't mind coming up.
So one of the things that we've been trying to do in ELA, especially on the high school level, is traditionally, I mean, certainly when I was in high school, but for many of you also, I think it was so that we read one book. Okay, so everybody read To Kill a Mockingbird at once, whether you could read it or not. And what we are trying to do now in ELA from grades 6 up is that we're trying to teach thematically, and that we have maybe a mentor text where it's a short story that we read with the class, or a poem, or a short book, and then students get to pick the book that they want, which is related. So in 7th grade, for instance, all the kids read A Long Walk to Water. It's a book about this thick. Very high interest, kids love it. And that's where we teach, a lot of what we have to teach about literature, about narrators and all that kind of stuff. But then the students get to pick from a pile of books about this tall, which are other historical fiction novels. And they're all different levels. And then what happens is they go into what we call book clubs. They've been doing book clubs since 2nd grade, and they sit with, 4 other kids, and then there's, they're having their chats, and the teacher's basically circulating, and then maybe sitting with this group and talking, what did you think about this, and then moves over here and talks to this other group. And that's what we're hoping to do in 7th and 8th grade, so that it wouldn't just be one book for everybody, because A, they might not be interested, and all the research shows us that when you give students choice, their interest in reading skyrockets. I mean, 8th grade is doing, right now, this culture and belonging unit, which is, I can't even tell you, unbelievable. Like, I just left class the other day, I was like, I cannot believe this is happening in this district. So, amazing. So that's what we want to do in all the classes.
That seems like that seems like a practical, noble, great outcome. I still struggle with, I don't understand I struggle with understanding why you need to eliminate an honors program to be able to achieve any of what you've just stated. Like, can't they coexist? Can an honors program and book talks and book clubs in your classroom, can't they all
I think the bottom line
exist?
for that is when the students have to choose the Regents or the AP, they choose the more rigorous program, and then they're better for it. When you
Well,
have that
down in the middle school, though, that's not the case. Like, in the middle school,
when you have that option there, they stick with that, and then they don't expand their horizons, and they just do better when they handle the more rigorous course.
so you're taking the honors opportunity away from the 7th and 8th graders
No,
in hopes?
No, let me try to emphasize it again. We're not taking the honors opportunity away. It's gonna be a rich curriculum for everybody. So if you're in an honors class now, you're getting a really, really good deal. And 2 years from now in English, every 7th grader who walks in the door is gonna get that really, really good deal. That really good instruction, that rich curriculum, that deep dive. So we're not taking anything away. We're just letting more people have it.
Or meeting some of the lower, I don't know. I think you're also inviting challenge to certain students as well. Not in a positive kind of way, not in an achievable kind of
I
challenge.
understand.
What's that?
I said I understand what you mean when you say challenge, I get it.
I didn't want you to misinterpret what I was
No,
saying.
no, I was crystal clear. I'm with you. Yeah, I understand. I can't make a presentation that would account for every individual student.
Of course.
So that's but I can only speak from my experience, and I can tell you that there was a lot of thought and effort that's gone into this, a lot of conversation. There's a lot of experience behind it. I know you don't know me really well, but I'm in the business of educating children and making recommendations that I believe are in their best interest. That's what I've done for 30 years.
That's where we all come from too, as parents, and I already heard myself and 2 or 3 others in here are educators as well. So believe us when we say we have our children's best interests at heart
Yeah, I
as
don't
well.
have
We
that.
want to be here on a a freezing Wednesday night, whatever night it is,
Yeah,
instead of being at home with my children, if it wasn't invested in them. That's
Yes.
why we're here too.
I agree. That's fair. Others? Mr. Daniel, I'll turn it back over to you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. O'Hara, and everyone for that, that great presentation. And I just want to just reiterate again, when the Board of Education, when we hired Dr. O'Hara, and we got all the input from the community, all the forums, all the support groups, one of the things they're always looking for, they wanted a strong leader. They also wanted someone that was going to be on the forefront of making Islip, which it's a great school district, but let's see if we can make it even better. And one of the things Dr. O'Hara said when we were interviewing him, he says, Islip is a diamond in the rough. So he's gonna put that polish on it. He's gonna challenge everyone. And again, I've said this before, I empathize with everyone. Any of the decisions that I ever make, or if anyone's ever standing out here in front of us and speaking to us, I always imagine myself being in your shoes and understanding exactly what you're saying to me. And I truly empathize with everyone. I was fortunate, my two sons went through here, got a quality education. I saw all the good sides of Islip, but I just see all the potential that Dr. O'Hara is going to be bringing with his staff and with his leadership. I'm a little too old to have any more kids, but I think everyone that has children in the school district is really going to benefit from what he's going to put in place here, and everyone in your staff. So I just want to say thank you. There's a lot of work that he put into this, and please, continue with your questions, and thank you again.
If anybody has additional questions, most everybody has my cell number, but you can reach me in the office, call, we'll make an appointment, and we'll try to go over more details for you. So, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dean. Thank you.
All right. Okay, we're going to move on to our policy reading, or the first reading. Mr. Clary.
Sure. So the policy committee has done a number of work in evaluating the policies that are put forth before the board this evening. The first one, voter registration for students, is simply providing students who are 16 years of age but are not 18 yet with opportunities to receive a voter registration packet from the district, and then it is brought home and it is filled out by the student and the family. So the district is otherwise just providing students with the opportunity to receive a registration packet. The second policy that's up for a second read this evening is really being amended to meet new state and federal regulations when it comes to gender-neutral single occupancy bathroom status, as well as graduation ceremonies. So those have been updated to reflect changes in legislation. Those will be adopted, will be put up for adoption to the board at our next board meeting. The policies can also be reviewed on board docs by the public, as well as on the district's website.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Kareem. Okay, we're going to move on to our agenda items at this point of the meeting. If there's any questions from the public on any of our agenda items, please just come to the microphone, name and address, and ask your question, and we'll get that answered for you. Before we move on to the public, is there any questions from the board on any of our agenda items? Okay. Are there any questions from the public on any of our agenda items? All right. Then I'd like to get a motion for consent agenda items 5A through 5L.
So moved.
That's Mr. Leggio. Can I get a second?
Second.
Mr. Kareem, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? And Those items will carry. So you don't have, are you going to do this one? Mrs. Fitzgerald is not here this evening. She's under the weather, and she usually does our personnel. Dr. O'Hara will just read through some of the personnel.
Yeah, so on A1, we have long-term substitute appointments, and we have permanent substitute teacher appointments. On A3, we have leaves of unpaid leave of absence. On A4, we're appointing a wrestling coach, middle school wrestling coach. On A5, we are appointing staff to the high school musical production, art director, musical choreographer, musical director for the pit, stage crew advisor, technical director, and vocal director. A13 is professional development trainers, and appointing teachers to work on our CLFI literacy program. A13, number 9 is sports crew substitution, so that position is to fill in when there's absences, doing the clock at games and so on. And we appointed the middle school nurse retroactive, who was instrumental in helping us distribute last week on Tuesday and Wednesday at-home COVID tests. And then we continue with appointments of some monitors and instructional aides, a child associate part-time as part of the a grant, security guard part-time, security guard full-time, and a school monitor. And I think that's everybody.
Great, thank you, Dr. Howe. You know, I'm just going to take a step back on pride and presentations. I'd really like to acknowledge Dr. O'Hara and a lot of the board members. Unfortunately, I wasn't over here. They were here last week handing out COVID kits to people in the in the school district that needed it. And I believe you handed out close to 1,000 kits.
Yeah, it was somewhere, by the time we were all done, close to 900.
So thank you for doing that. The second night, I understand the weather was a little inclement, and Mr. Austin was kind enough to bring his pop-up tents so that everyone was able to stay dry as those people came by to pick up their kits. So thank you for everyone that did that. It's greatly appreciated, and I think it was a great benefit to people in the district to be able to get those kits, because I know I'm a little bit hard to come by right now.
Mr. Vinny, if I can add for anybody in the audience or listening at home, we have leftover kits. So we were provided enough based on our enrollment, and we distributed to everybody who, initially it was one per student, but if you find yourself in a situation where somebody in your nuclear family is a close contact or is having symptoms, you can call our office. You can send somebody to pick it up. Not somebody who's close contact to the person who has symptoms. Don't send that person to my office. But or we can figure out a way to get a kit to you, just so that we could do what we can to help slow the spread of this thing.
Great, thank you. All right, we're now going to move on to our public questions for the Board of Education. Again, if anyone has any questions for the board, I just ask you to please come to the microphone one at a time, name and address, ask your question, and we'll hopefully get those answers to you. So are there any questions for the Board of Education?
Sorry. I've got new ones for you this week, month, whatever, not COVID related.
Okay.
My question is, as far as some of the new things that you're implementing across the district, can you tell me, at what grades do you have a makerspace? Do you have any intention, I know there used to be something of a makerspace down at Wing and in elementary schools, but as I understand, it's not really up and running any longer. Do you have any information on that? Or perhaps, are you looking to put a makerspace? For those of you who don't know, do we know, you guys know what a makerspace is?
Yeah, so we have, makerspace has been something we've been exploring for years. The biggest part of where we have our makerspaces has been the high school.
Okay.
And it's something we're looking to expand, but additionally, some other things that are kind of probably maybe taking the place of makerspaces is we, you know, in, whether it is in the, in something, things that we're looking at in, let's say, in some coding things that are happening in class, and we're looking to implement something in coding that goes through K-12. And that would probably take the place of that, but in what you're saying, some of the problems with where we wanted to go with makerspaces had to do with the pandemic and being able to come close to have like all these building pieces together. But we're always looking to, because we had to take apart some of our like elementary library. Typically, it would exist in the library space. The library space is where that was
Often, right?
Right. So because of some of the restructuring of the library spaces over the last few years, we've kind of put some of our plans on hold.
Okay.
But maker spaces and other things which we call breaker spaces, which is like taking things apart.
Right.
Those are two things that we think very highly of, and when there's opportunities, we want to put those in where we can. But I bring up Pitolio because it adds to the element of engineering, which is at the heart of that, and for kids building things.
It's an app program essentially, right?
Yeah, it's an app program, but also has features
Coding.
where kids build little mini robots.
Okay.
Right? So there'll be a lot of robotic implementation at all levels going in, including at the middle school. We're starting a unit this year where students are doing some robotic building in tech classes. And we hope that'll expand.
Okay. I mean, that's all great, but that's a little less experimental as I understand it, right? That's a little bit more like teacher-led and guided,
Right,
perhaps,
yeah.
whereas
Listen,
like
we would like to do both, right? So
right, which would be,
yeah, I'm not suggesting one over the other. I'm saying that as we're expanding, we want to have more opportunities for kids to do that.
Okay, that would just be some, I mean, I don't know when the correct time is to even make a suggestion or a hope as a community member for when budgetary items come and planning items come, if that would be taken into consideration. I think that across the board, I mean, there's districts that have them, you know, K through 12, that I know that, like, Hollow Hills West is always welcoming, like, other schools, if you wanna go and check theirs out, they offer tours to curriculum planners, that you're more than, you know, that you could go and they could show you how theirs operates, and it's been very successful. My other question was, and I know during the pandemic with touching supplies, that, you know, that's not where we are anymore, so. My other question was, as far as, like platforms that you use, is it the same from K through 12? Like, do you use like a Google Suite, like a G Suite? Or are you using, like Google Classroom in certain classes, and some teachers are using Blackboard, and some teachers, or is it a uniform throughout the entire district?
I mean, it's not uniform yet, but we're working toward that.
That's the hope too?
No, that's not a hope,
Whatever, you like to mince my words.
You said hope, I didn't just now.
I know, but you're correcting my word. I was very comfortable using the word hope, but you could choose, substitute with whatever word you choose.
No, that's a will happen.
I would like to see that on the next PowerPoint presentation that we present to the public, and, you know, we're changing things for the greater,
Which part?
making a uniform platform for K through 12.
Yeah, that will happen by September.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Questions? Okay. Any other questions? Okay, we're going to move on to our reports and correspondence. The Islip Town School Board meeting. I had a conflict that night, but I understand if 4 or 5 years were able to. I hate missing those meetings, Matt. You wanted to?
Yeah, I can speak to it. So on Monday, December 6th, myself, Mr. Austin, Mr. Leggio, and Dr. O'Hara attended a meeting of the Islip Town School Boards Association hosted by the Sayville School District. During the meeting, the premise of the meeting is to have school board members and superintendents across the town of Islip gather together to just share information, share best practices, and share other information. So the topic of the meeting that evening was a presentation from Bob Schneider, who is the executive director of NISBA. He made a presentation on a couple of topics, including school safety, the role of school board members in curriculum approval, the importance of board and superintendent partnerships, as well as NISBA's 2022 policy and fiscal recommendations as it comes to school funding, which will be coming up in the very near future. So overall, it was a very positive and informative evening.
You know, Mr. Green?
I am,
Okay,
yes,
great,
thank you,
great,
Mr.
thank you.
Green.
All right. I saw you moving your phone, I didn't know if you were. Okay, the cybersecurity and educational law webinar, I guess you attended that? It's on here, I couldn't.
I attended that as well as Ms. Regapi, so I can speak to it, and I don't know if maybe
Sure.
Laura wants to just add a few more things. So that was hosted last week through Zoom. It was part one of a part two webinar on cybersecurity and ed law. Some of the topics that were touched upon by the presenters included cybersecurity and identity security controls that school districts should have in place in order to protect the private information that school districts gather. They were discussing some statistics about phishing, fraud triangles that some districts, not only on Long Island, but across the country have experienced. Some common threats that they had discussed included malware, ransomware, crypto security, and phishing emails. And I know our district does partakes in a number of initiatives to ensure that our own data is secure and not is not what's the word I'm looking for? Is not susceptible to any attacks from cyber predators. So overall, they did talk about the board's role. So when it comes to setting policies, procedures, making sure there's an allocation of resources in our school budget to ensure that there are appropriate cybersecurity firewalls in place to ensure our data and information are safe and secure. That was most of the meeting. There's going to be a part two to the webinar sometime in the spring.
Great, thank you for that update. And I guess you want to roll on to business?
Sure. So for those of you who kind of are following the budget process now, Governor Hochul gave her first State of the State address last week. And this is really the beginning of school advocacy as it relates to the state budget and speaking with our legislators. So there are just a few points. This document is available to the public on Board Docs. Some just highlights from her State of the State address dealing with education issues and advocacy topics. During her State of the State address, the governor maintained her commitment to stabilizing the state's fiscal partnership with schools by her plan of fully funding foundation aid through the 2023-2024 school year. Other topics that were addressed in her State of the State address included supporting the mental health needs of students and staff, a renewed focus on college, career, and technical education opportunities, and ensuring there is a reliable broadband service throughout the state as our district and others across the state and the country transition to more technology-based instruction. One of her goals was increasing the amount of teachers and professional staff in school districts, so whether that's her goal of accelerating the certification process for prospective teachers and staff, or temporarily waiving a $35,000 income fee for retired teachers. So her objective in the State of the State was to encourage either individuals who are paraprofessionals to become teachers or encourage those who have retired to return to the classroom. So really the State of the State address for the governor is almost like a wish list of her goals and objectives that she would like to see take place throughout the state. This is really just the baseline of what is going to now happen in Albany. So she has about 2 or 3 weeks from now to submit her executive budget proposal to the legislature. And after that takes place, members of the leadership in the state assembly and the state senate will meet with the governor's team, and our legislators will meet with constituents such as yourselves and boards of education to finalize a state budget. So the proposed 2022-23 state budget has to be adopted by the legislature. So there is a lot more work that needs to get done up in Albany. prior to any of these initiatives taking place. And that budget year begins on April 1. And from this moment on through April will be a really important advocacy time for not only school boards when it comes to public education advocacy, but also yourselves as constituents when it comes to any other topics as well. So if you're interested in learning more about her State of the State address as it relates to public education, like I said, this document is on board docs, and there's an array of other sources that you can tap into for that information.
Great, thank you for that report.
You're welcome.
And Mr. Austin, the PTSA? Or,
I'm going to jump
Okay.
in. Mr. Austin
I'll
finished
finish it.
the
okay.
post-prom. Okay, so at the middle school, they just had a reminder to order the yearbook if you'd like to have one. Over at Sherwood, the students enjoyed the return of the holiday boutique, and they got to shop for people on their lists with the help of teachers and volunteers. There's a joint PTA meeting scheduled with press at the public library on January 18th at 7 p.m. If you haven't had the opportunity to hear one of the presentations done at the public library, I really recommend that you do it. The resources that our public library has for our students is incredible. And the presentation that Adriana Ladoke does is really very valuable. There's a Google form that will go out as well if you want to attend by Zoom. There's Reflections Award Ceremony taking place on January 20th, and a Family Fun Night is tentatively scheduled for 1/28. Over at Press, the students also enjoyed the return of the holiday boutique. 3rd and 5th graders enjoyed Jambo Productions assembly virtually, courtesy of PTA. Teachers were treated to hot chocolate and to welcome in the new year. And again, there's a joint meeting with Sherwood on the 18th at the library. At the high school, there was a meeting just yesterday. It was attended by myself and also Mr. Austin. They stated that their membership was at 103 members. 19 of them are teachers, 31 are students. It's not too late to join. Even if you can't volunteer, your membership dollars show your support. And it's only $10. Shopping night was a huge success. For those of you who got to attend, there were lots of vendors, there were raffle baskets, even Santa and Mrs. Claus were there. And it was a really great community turnout to support the event and all the vendors. I even won 2 prizes, which was so exciting. Principal report, Mr. Rochester went over January testing, school safety, scheduling, and COVID updates. Some upcoming events, PS I Love You Day on 2/11, and the next meeting is scheduled for 4/11. And then I turn it over to Mr. Austin for the post-prom report.
The post-prom is starting up with 2 fundraisers. One is a little late start, so we're hoping to get going, is the football boxes for the Super Bowl. It's on Facebook, and it's probably going to be plastered all over the place. The second one is we're going to do the Easter egg hiding again like we did last year. It was a tremendous success. We raised a lot of money for the kids' prizes for that night. The Easter eggs will be delivered on April 16th, the night before Easter. And we're going to be meeting with the student government and the students so we can finally nail down a theme for this year's post-prom, which will be on June the 23rd. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Austin. All right, that's it on our reports and correspondence. We move on to our dates to remember. School will be closed on January 17th in observance for Martin Luther King Day. Our next Board of Education meeting will be on January 25th with exec session at 6:30. Open session to begin at 7:30, and that will be here in the high school auditorium. So with that, I'd like to give a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
That's Mr. Green in the second.
Second.
Mr. Austin, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out on this very cold night. Stay warm. And again, any questions that you have, please send them over here, and we'll get them answered for you as soon as possible. Thank you.